Von der Leyen says next EU budget must be flexible, focused and funded by new revenues. China cuts its rates for the first time since October to 3% for the one-year loan and 3.5% to the five-year loan. And Wealth Fund CEO says Qatar aims to double U.S. investment after $500 billion pledge. Welcome to the Economic Bulletin. We start off with the United States. President Donald Trump is on Capitol Hill today to meet with House Republicans, pushing for agreements on a sweeping tax cut bill. The legislation, which includes extending 2017 tax cuts and new breaks for tips and overtime, faces internal divisions within the GOP. Hardline conservatives demand deeper spending cuts, while moderates worry about protecting social programs like Medicaid, and lawmakers from high-tax states seek more deductions. Non-partisan analysts warn the bill could add trillions to the national debt, currently over $36 trillion, a concern amplified by Modi's recent downgrade of the U.S. credit rating. On trade policy, German Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil has called for a quick resolution to ongoing trade disputes with the United States, stating that tariffs and uncertainties are harming the economy and job security. Speaking before a G7 finance ministers meeting in Banff, Canada, Klingbeil highlighted the EU's determination to defend its interests as the world's largest single market. The Trump administration's tariffs on steel, aluminium, cars, and a general 10% tariff with additional reciprocal tariffs on the EU remain a key point of contention. Beyond trade, Klingbeil stressed the importance of strengthening international cooperation and reaffirmed the G7's commitment to supporting Ukraine's reconstruction after the war. Japanese Finance Minister Katsunabo Kato has stated that he expects any upcoming bilateral meetings with the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent regarding exchange rates will be grounded in their shared belief that excessive currency volatility is undesirable. Speaking ahead of the G7 finance leaders gathering in Canada, Kato reiterated their previous agreement that exchange rates should be market determined and that extreme fluctuations negatively impact the economy. Kato also noted that Japan is closely examining the economic and market impact of Modi's recent downgrade of the U.S. credit rating. While Japan and the U.S. are engaged in separate tariffs talks, the sensitive currency issue is being reserved for discussion between the two finance chiefs. Moreover, Thai Finance Minister Pichai Chonjivera has reported that his country is actively seeking discussions with the United States to avert a potential 36% U.S. tariff set to take effect in July. Thailand, which faces a significant trade imbalance with the U.S., has proposed measures to enhance market access for American exports, combat transshipment violations, and boost Thai investments in the U.S. He stated that these efforts aim to create a fair trade and investment relationship and could cut the U.S. deficit by up to $15 billion. The United States was Thailand's largest export market last year, accounting for $55 billion in shipments. Thailand is also looking to foster more collaboration in areas like green energy and biotech with the U.S. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen stated the next European Union budget for 2028 to 2023 must be more flexible, focused and funded by new revenues to repay pandemic borrowing. She stressed the need to adapt the budget, currently at 1% of EU GDP, to global changes like rising geopolitical tensions, trade wars, climate change, and AI's impact. Von der Leyen further noted that 90% of the current €1.2 trillion budget from 2021 to 2027 was rigidly assigned, emphasizing the need for greater flexibility moving forward.
And we as a Commission will propose for 2 months now, no humanitarian supplies have entered Gaza. Aid must reach civilians in need.
The Financial Times has reported that the European Union is planning to impose a flat fee on billions of small packages entering the bloc, primarily from China. The European Commission circulated the draft on Monday, responding to pressure from member states whose custom authorities are overwhelmed by the 4.6 billion items annually imported directly to consumer homes. While the exact fee isn't set, reports suggest it could be around €2 per package. EU countries have given a green light to lifting all economic sanctions on Syria in a bid to help the war-torn country recover after the ouster of Bashar al-Assad. Diplomats and ambassadors from the EU's 27 member states struck a preliminary agreement for the move, which should be formally unveiled by foreign ministers' meetings in Brussels later in the day. The decision from the European Union comes after US President Donald Trump announced last week that Washington was lifting its sanctions against Syria.
8 years ago, Hitler, the European foreign ministers celebrating this European Day with you. It marks the day of peace, and of course
An International Monetary Fund monitoring mission has started a new review of the $15.5 billion program to the Ukraine, with discussions expected to focus on the war-torn economy and budget needs. IMF emphasized that the policy discussion would be part of its 8th review of its 4-year extended fund facility program. Ukraine's central bank governor Andrei Bashany, the talks were expected to touch on how to finance Ukraine's budget, both via attracting financing and partners and mobilizing domestic revenues. Officials would also discuss the financial sector and further reforms needed to strengthen its stability, including state regulations for credit bureaus and developing financial market infrastructure. Moving to Asia, China has cut its benchmark lending rates for the first time since October, with 1-year loan prime rates reduced to 3% and the 5-year loan prime rate at 3.5%. Major state banks also lowered deposit rates. This move is aimed at stimulating consumption and loan growth as China's economy faces headwinds with the Sino-US trade war. While the cuts are mild, they signal policymaker efforts to support the economy. The cuts also aim to help protect commercial banks' shrinking profit margins, which have been under pressure. Chinese President Xi Jinping has emphasized the need to continually strengthen China's manufacturing industry and achieve self-reliance in manufacturing technologies to advance Chinese modernization. During an inspection tour at a bearing producer in Liang City, Xi highlighted China's successful development of its real economy. He urged closer collaboration between industries, universities, and research institutes, as well as the cultivation of high-quality talent. The Bank of Japan has stated that some market players urged the bank to increase buying of super long bonds or terminate tapering for that maturity in the wake of sharp rises in their yields. The requests made in the BOJ's survey of bond market participants on its taper plans underscore the challenge the central bank faces in removing remnants of the massive monetary stimulus. In the survey, most market participants saw no need to tweak the BOJ's existing taper program. Statistics Canada has reported that the country's annual inflation rate declined by 1.7% in April from 2.3% in March. The slowdown was driven largely by a dramatic 12.7% drop in energy prices following the federal government's removal of the consumer carbon tax, with gasoline prices plunging 18.1% year over year and natural gas costs falling 14.1%. However, underlying price pressures persisted, with core inflation measures reaching 13-month highs. The CPI median, which tracks the median inflation rate across components, rose 3.2% in April from 2.8% in March, while the CPI trim, which excludes outliers, edged up to 3.1% from 2.9%.
Steep rise in interest rates over the past year really hasn't had an overwhelming effect on the
Australia's central bank has slashed interest rates to 3.85% in a bold move to shield the economy from escalating global trade tensions, while acknowledging domestic inflation has cooled enough to justify easing. The Reserve Bank of Australia's quarter-point cut is its second this year, comes as President Trump's sweeping tariffs and China trade disputes threaten the nation's crucial commodity exports. RBA Governor Michelle Bullock revealed the controversial decision followed heated debate, with policymakers considering both holding steady and delivering a larger 50-point reduction. Egypt's Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has inaugurated the SI wiring system Egypt plant, part of the Sumitomo Electric Systems Europe. The €22 million facility spans 150,000 square meters and is expected to create around 3,000 direct jobs. Madbouli described the plant as one of the largest globally for vehicle wiring harness production. With annual exports exceeding €300 million, the factory already employs over 12,000 Egyptians and plays a key role in positioning Egypt as a global hub for automotive components. The factory includes a dedicated training center and boasts a workforce where women represent over 40%. Madbouli hailed the project as a model for future industrial partnership, noting ongoing collaborations with other global firms to expand Egypt's manufacturing and export capabilities. The European Parliament and the Council have reached a provisional agreement to provide Egypt with up to €4 billion in loans as part of the broader macro financial assistance MFA package. The new tranche follows a €1 billion short-term loan disbursed at the end of 2024, bringing the total MFA support to €5 billion. Egypt will have up to 35 years to repay the loans. The release of funds is contingent on Egypt's continued implementation of an International Monetary Fund program and further policy commitments outlined in a forthcoming memorandum between the EU and Egyptian authorities. Trade between Egypt and Lebanon grew significantly in 2024, reaching $1 billion, a 29.3% increase over the previous year. According to data from Egypt's Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics, Egypt's exports to Lebanon jumped 43.8% to $762.8 million, led by fuels and mineral oils at $215 million, iron and steel products at $65 million, cement at $55 million, fruits and vegetables at $48 million, and sugar products at $41 million. Lebanese investments in Egypt remained steady at $51.2 million, while Egyptian investments in Lebanon increased to $9.7 million. Remittances from Egyptian workers in Lebanon rose to $42.9 million, while Lebanese workers in Egypt sent $3.5 million home. Japanese ambassador to Egypt, Fumio Iwai, hailed the new factory by SC Wiring System Egypt as a major step in the company's expansion and a successful model of Japanese investments abroad. He emphasized that the project aligns with Egypt's national strategy to boost local production and industrial growth. Ambassador Iwai praised the Egyptian government for its role in facilitating the project and expressed appreciation for the support provided by Prime Minister Madbouli and other senior officials. He reaffirmed Japan's commitment to Egypt's industrial development, including the localization of the automotive sector. Egypt's economy is set for a gradual recovery, with real GDP growth projected at 4.3% for fiscal year of 2024-2025, up from 2.4% in the previous year. According to the Central Bank of Egypt's latest report, inflation has also significantly decreased, with headline inflation dropping 33% in quarter 1 of 2024 to 16.5% in the first quarter of 2025, and food inflation falling from 45% to 6.6%. The CBE forecasts continued recovery, with GDP growth expected at 4.8% in the financial year 2025-2026, though inflation will decline more slowly due to fiscal measures and persistent non-food inflation. Foreign direct investment is rebounding, spurred by a $35 billion deal. Risks remain after policy uncertainties and trade tensions. The Engineering Export Council of Egypt has stated that Egypt's engineering sector is targeting a record $7 billion in exports by the end of 2025 in the first quarter of this year. The sector's exports grew by 12%, reaching nearly $1.49 billion. The Council aims for an annual export growth of 20% to 30%. The Council noted that the positive impact of new foreign investment focused on export-oriented production, enhancing the sector's global competitiveness. The 5th Annual Qatar Economic Forum kicked off in Doha from May 20th to 22nd, 2025 under the theme, The Road to 2030, Transforming the Global Economy. The forum aims to address critical global economic challenges and opportunities, aligning with Qatar's National Vision 2030. Expected to draw Over 2,500 participants, including heads of states and industry leaders. Discussions will span geopolitics, trade, business outlooks, energy, security, sports, entertainment, technology, and AI. Qatar's sovereign wealth and Fund CEO Saif Al-Suwaidi stated that the authority is planning at least double its annual U.S. investments in the next decade, after the fund has already pledged to invest $500 billion in the U.S. economy over the next 10 years. Al-Suwaidi noted that Qatar Investment Authority was betting big on AI and has been investing extensively in hyperscale data centers in the U.S. over the past 10 years. Suwaidi added that the fund's annual investments into the U.S. increased its pace, as some years probably increased by double, with some years probably buying more than double what the authority had been doing for the past 5 to 6 years.
Under the theme, The Road to 2023, Transforming the Global Economy, the 5th Qatar Economic Forum kicked off in Doha. More than 2,500 participants, including heads of state, CEOs, and policymakers, are attending to address challenges across 5 key pillars: geopolitics, energy, technology, investment, and entertainment. Since its launch, the forum has contributed over 177 million rials to Qatar's GDP and supported the creation of 900 full-time jobs. This year alone, it generated 68 million Qatari rials in marketing value and reached an estimated 300 million households worldwide. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani addressed the opening, warning of a collapsing peace process in Gaza and condemning Israel's ongoing military operations. He noted that despite efforts by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, no breakthrough has been achieved in halting the war. He also welcomed the U.S. decision to lift sanctions on Syria, viewing it as an opportunity to rebuild following regime change. On the economic front, the event highlighted a $96 billion agreement between Qatar Airways and Boeing for 210 aircraft, reportedly the largest single order in Boeing's history. Bilateral talks are also underway, including discussions between Qatari officials and Cyprus's energy minister to enhance trade and energy cooperation. High-profile participations such as Elon Musk and Donald Trump are also present, with discussions ongoing around 20 potential memoranda of understanding with international partners.
Elon Musk has stated during the Qatar Economic Forum that he was still committed to being Tesla CEO in 5 years' time. Musk added that Tesla has already turned around and noted that the weakest market is in Europe, while demand is strong everywhere else. He further highlighted that his internet service Starlink might go public at some point in the future, but that there was no rush. Oil prices steadied on Tuesday due to uncertainty in U.S.-Iran negotiations and Russia-Ukraine peace talks, while new government data delivered a cautious outlook for top crude importer China's economy. Brent crude futures slipped 0.4% to $65.28 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was flat at $64.08. 80 cents. The June West Texas Intermediate contract, which expires today, decreased 0.3% to $64.60, while the more active July contract was down around 0.1% at $62.10 a barrel. Gold prices rose more than 1% on Tuesday as the US dollar weakened further while uncertainty persisted over US tariff policy and the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire. Spot gold was up at 1.6% at $3,280.32 an ounce. US gold futures gained 1.5% higher at $3,283.10. The dollar slipped again, weighed down by the Federal Reserve's caution over the economy. A softer dollar makes bullion cheaper for buyers holding other currencies. That brings us to the end of our economic bulletin. Here's what we've been covering. Von der Leyen says next EU budget must be flexible, focused and funded by new revenues. China cuts its rates for the first time since October to 3% for the one-year loan and 3.5% to the five-year loan. And Wealth Fund CEO says Qatar aims to double US investments after $500 billion pledge. This concludes our economic bulletin. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, at TikTok at QNewsEGY to stay informed. Thank you for watching.